In the middle of a meeting, my phone suddenly vibrated. My neighbor whispered, and it hit me like a bolt of lightning. "Your wife is here with a man. They came in through the back door." I rushed home, my heart pounding, and froze in shock when I saw a strange car parked right by the yard. Yet the living room light was still on, even though she told me she was at her mom's. I knocked on the door, and heard laughter and glasses clinking behind tightly drawn curtains. If you want to know how I uncovered the truth, don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications so you won't miss the next part. I was standing at the front of the conference room on the 12th floor, talking through a cost-cutting plan I'd already rewritten 3 times that week. Numbers on the screen, faces around the table, my boss nodding like he expected me to keep everything tight and clean. My phone wouldn't stop buzzing in my pocket. At first I ignored it. I've spent my whole life learning how to keep my personal mess from spilling onto the job. But the vibration kept coming, steady and stubborn, like someone tapping on a locked door. I excused myself without breaking stride. "Keep going without me," I said, sliding my laptop clicker onto the table. "I'll be right back." Out in the hallway, I checked the screen and saw my neighbor's name. He wasn't the type to call. He texted about trash cans and package deliveries. "Not this," I answered. "Marcus," he said, voice low. "I didn't know how else to tell you. Your wife, she's home. She just brought a man in, through the back door." My throat tightened so fast it felt like my body had decided to swallow the words before they could turn into anything dangerous. "You sure?" I managed. "I'm looking at it," he said. "I'm not trying to stir trouble. I'd want someone to tell me." I didn't thank him. Not because I wasn't grateful, because my mouth wouldn't cooperate. I hung up and stood there for a second, staring at the beige hallway wall like it could give me something solid to hold on to. Then I walked back into that room. I kept my face straight, kept my voice even, clicked through the last few slides like my world hadn't cracked open in the space of 30 seconds. "If we adjust the routing schedule and cut overtime by 10%, we can stabilize the quarter," I said, hearing myself speak like I was reading someone else's script. A couple people asked questions. I answered them. I nodded. I smiled once. The whole time, all I could hear in my head was, "Back door, back door, back door." When the meeting ended, I didn't linger. I grabbed my keys, said I had to pick my son up early, and got out of the building before my hands started shaking in front of anyone who knew me. On the drive home, traffic moved like it always did, like nobody else's life had been touched. My hands stayed tight on the steering wheel. I kept telling myself not to do anything stupid, not to burst in yelling, not to give anyone the satisfaction of painting me as the angry black man who couldn't control himself. That was the part that made me sick. Even in that moment, I was still calculating how to survive the story someone else might tell about me. A few days earlier, Tanya had taken my debit card without asking. "I need to grab a few things for Jay," she'd said, already sliding it into her purse like it was nothing. She brought it back late, no receipt, no explanation. When I asked, she kissed my cheek and said I was always so serious. I let it go, because peace felt easier than questions. My driveway came into view. A strange car sat close to the side gate, angled like whoever parked it didn't want to be seen from the street. The living room lights were on, the porch light too. Tanya had texted me that morning. "Heading to my mom's, don't wait up." I parked at the curb instead of pulling in, sat there long enough to feel my heartbeat in my ears. Then I got out and walked up like I belonged there, like I wasn't about to find out who I'd been sleeping next to. I knocked. Nothing. I knocked again, harder. Still nothing. The blinds were drawn tight. The deadbolt was turned. I could see it through the glass. Inside, laughter popped up and died down, soft and careless, like the house was hosting a small celebration that I hadn't been invited to. Then came the sound of 2 glasses touching, a quiet clink. I stepped back from the door. My eyes moved to the doorbell camera, the little red light blinking like it had been watching my whole life without saying a word. For a long time, I'd thought staying calm meant being strong. Standing there, locked out of my own house, I realized I'd been calling it patience when it was really something else. I'd been disappearing on purpose. My feet carried me back down the steps before my mind caught up. I got into the car, shut the door, and sat with both hands on the wheel, like that was the only thing keeping me from shaking apart. Instead of driving off, I rolled to the corner and turned toward the quick trip off I-77. the one I stop at when I'm too tired to cook. The parking lot gave me room to sit without neighbors seeing my face. I pulled into a spot near the air pump and let my breathing slow down. No prayers, no speeches, just air in, air out, until my fingers stopped tingling. First call went to Jay. He answered on the second ring, cheerful and distracted. "Dad? You good over there?" I asked. "Miss Carter's mom still home?" "Yeah, we're playing Madden." "Stay put," I said. "Don't go anywhere. If you need anything, call me. Hear me?" A pause. His voice dropped. "You okay?" "I'm fine," I lied, because that's what fathers do when they're bleeding in places their kids can't see. Before he could ask again, I told him I'd see him soon and hung up. Then I texted his teacher. Short, polite, practical. Confirming Jay is staying with Carter after school. I'll pick up around 6. The response came quick. "Yes, Mr. Reed, all good." Only after that did I call Tanya. She picked up like she'd been waiting. "Hey," she said, soft and normal. "Where are you?" I asked. "I told you. My mom's." "You sure about that?" A tiny laugh. Not warm, not confused, just dismissive. "Marcus, what is this?" she said. "You sound crazy." "I'm at the house." Silence, then a sigh like I'd interrupted her day. "So?" she said. "I stopped by to grab a couple things. You don't own the place." "There's a car in the driveway I don't recognize." "Oh my God," she said, dragging it out. "You're imagining stuff. You always do that. You work too much. You come home and think everybody's against you." My jaw clenched so hard my teeth hurt. "Don't do that," I said. "Don't flip this on me." "I'm not flipping anything," she replied. "You're standing outside acting like some detective. Go pick up your son and calm down." The line went dead before I could answer. I stared at the phone screen until it dimmed. By the time I got back to the house, the strange car was gone. The porch light was off. Curtains still closed. Everything looked neat, like someone had wiped fingerprints away. I didn't knock again. I drove off because nothing good happens when you force a door, and your name is already the easiest one to blame. That night, once Jay was asleep, I sat at the kitchen table scrolling through my phone. Tanya posted a story on Instagram, black background, white text. "Some men don't want a wife. They want control." No name attached, but she didn't need one. People who knew us would fill it in for her. Within an hour, her sister Keisha messaged me. "Hey, just checking. Everything okay over there?" The words looked friendly. The timing didn't. I typed, erased, typed again, settled on nothing. Put the phone face down and listened to the refrigerator hum like it had more sense than the people in my life. The next morning, I met Elena Morales at a diner in South End before work. She wore her hair pulled back tight and kept her coffee black, the way someone does when they don't waste time dressing up the truth. She didn't ask how I felt. She asked what happened. I kept it simple. The call, the back door, the locked deadbolt, the sound of laughter, the missing car. Elena didn't react the way friends do on TV. No gasps, no hand over mouth. She just watched me the whole time, like she was measuring whether I'd stay steady. When I finished, she set her cup down. "What do you have?" she said, "besides a gut feeling?" My mouth opened, then closed again. Outside, cars kept moving. People kept eating their eggs. Nobody looked up. I reached into my pocket and felt my keys, my wallet, my phone. Like counting them could prove I still had something of my own. Elena's question sat in my chest all night. I got through dinner, homework, the usual routine with Jay, but my mind kept circling back to the same problem. Feelings don't hold up when people decide you're the problem. Morning came fast. I dropped Jay at school in Ballantyne and pulled into the pickup line lot even though it was early. He liked when I showed up on time. It made him feel like things were normal. Kids spilled out, backpacks bouncing, parents waving from car windows. I stayed by my driver's door, hands in my pockets, scanning without trying to look like I was scanning. Across the lot, a man stood near a row of shrubs, not close enough to look suspicious, not far enough to be nothing. He wore a dark hoodie, phone in his hand, head tilted like he was reading something. Then his eyes lifted and landed on me and Jay. Not a glance, a look. Jay talked about a science quiz. I nodded at the right spots. The man shifted his weight, still watching, then turned and walked toward the sidewalk like he'd remembered somewhere else to be. For a second, I almost followed. Instead, I told myself I was tired, that I'd turned into the kind of man who saw threats in shadows because sleep wasn't coming easy anymore. I watched Jay disappear into the building, then climbed into my car and sat there with the engine off, wondering when I'd started questioning my own judgment. At home, I opened my banking app the way some people open the fridge, out of habit, without expecting a surprise. A row of small withdrawals sat there like crumbs leading somewhere I hadn't been. $40, $65, $50, always a few days apart, always just low enough to slip under the radar if you weren't looking hard. The account balance still looked fine because my paycheck had hit the day before. That was the trick. Take it slow. Keep the numbers calm. Let the person paying the bills feel stable while you drain the foundation. I clicked one transaction and saw a name I didn't recognize. Another had a different name. None of them matched our usual stuff. When Tanya came home later, I stayed by the kitchen counter and asked like I was asking about groceries. "What are these withdrawals?" I said, turning the screen toward her. Her face changed so fast it almost impressed me. Eyes glossy, mouth trembling, shoulders tight. "Are you serious right now?" she whispered. "I'm asking a question." She pressed her palm to her chest like she needed oxygen. "I can't breathe when you do this," she said. "You interrogate me like I'm some criminal. I'm your wife." The tears came, right on cue. Not messy, not ugly, controlled enough to work. Jay walked in then, kicked his shoes off and looked between us. Tanya wiped her cheeks and forced a smile at him. "Baby, go wash your hands," she said, voice sweet. "Dinner's almost ready." He hesitated, then shuffled away. I didn't raise my voice, didn't slam anything, just nodded once like I understood, even though the only thing I understood was how quickly my questions turned into her pain. After she went upstairs, I opened the settings on our doorbell camera and switched the storage plan back on. Then I changed the password on my separate savings account, the one I'd kept for emergencies since before we married. I took screenshots of every transaction that looked off and saved them to a folder with a boring name. Before leaving for work the next day, I stopped at a pharmacy and bought a small voice recorder from behind the counter. Nothing fancy. It fit in my palm. I stuck it in the glove compartment like it was a spare charger. Back at the house, Tanya moved around as if nothing had happened. Dishes clinked. A drawer opened and shut. Her phone buzzed upstairs. Everything looked the same on the surface, but I could feel something underneath shifting, slow and steady, like a wall taking on water while everyone keeps hanging pictures. Tanya left a mug in the sink that morning and walked out like we hadn't just stood in the kitchen the night before with my phone between us like a weapon. The house stayed quiet after she pulled away, but my head stayed loud. I went to work anyway. Bills don't pause for betrayal. By late afternoon, an email popped up from HR asking me to stop by for a quick conversation. No subject line that made sense, no warning, just a calendar invite with a small conference room number. I walked in and saw two people I barely knew, an HR rep and someone from corporate security. Both had that careful face, the one people use when they think you might explode. "Marcus, thanks for coming," the HR rep said. "We received a concern." My stomach dropped, but my expression didn't move. "A concern about what?" I asked. She folded her hands and spoke slow, like she was reading from a script. "There was a report that you may have made threatening statements at home. We're required to check in, just to ensure everyone's safe." For a second, I didn't hear anything else. The room felt smaller, not because of walls, but because I understood the strategy. If you make the story about me being dangerous, then anything I say after that sounds like proof. I looked at her, then at security. "Who made the report?" I asked. "We can't disclose that," she said quickly. "This is not disciplinary, it's a wellness check, but we do need to document your response." I could have argued. I could have raised my voice and demanded names. I could have thrown the whole truth on the table. Instead, I pulled out my phone and opened my calendar. "Yesterday I was here from 8 to 5, I said. "Then I picked up my son at 6. I can show you the text from his teacher. I can show you my badge logs. If you're going to document anything about me, document facts." The HR rep blinked like she didn't expect that. I leaned forward just enough to make my point without making a show. "And I want everything in writing," I said. "If there's an allegation, I want it recorded properly. No hallway conversations, no vague notes." Security shifted in his chair. The HR rep nodded, tight-lipped. "Okay," she said, "we'll send you a summary." I stood up, thanked them for their time like it was any other meeting, and walked out with my shoulders steady. The shaking didn't start until the elevator doors closed. In the lobby, I checked my phone again. A notification from our bank sat at the top of my screen. "Your account access has been updated." I clicked it. The shared checking account, our household money, had new login details. Someone had changed the recovery email and phone number, not mine. Another email followed, from a mortgage lender I'd never contacted. "Thank you for your request. We've received your inquiry for home loan information." I read it twice, then a third time. My throat tightened again, but this time it wasn't shock. It was a cold understanding. This wasn't just about some man in my house. This was about my name, my credit, my home, everything I'd built for Jay. The kind of thing you don't scream about because screaming doesn't stop paperwork. I walked out to the parking deck, got into my car, and didn't start the engine right away. My thumb hovered over Tanya's number, then moved to the bank's customer service line instead. The bank put me on hold long enough for the anger to cool into something sharper. By the time a representative came on, I'd already parked at the Walmart off South Tryon because I needed a place to sit where nobody would ask questions. "Sir, I'm showing a change request submitted online," the woman on the line said. "Was that you?" "No," I replied. She asked for verification. I gave it. She told me she could lock the account temporarily, then transfer me to fraud. I agreed before she finished the sentence. When the call ended, I stayed in the car, staring at the store entrance, watching people load groceries into trunks, like the world still worked the way it was supposed to. My phone rang again. Unknown number. Normally I let those go. That day, I answered without thinking. "Marcus Reed?" a woman asked. "Yes." Her voice sounded tired, not dramatic, like she'd been rehearsing this and still hated doing it. "I don't know you," she said, "but I know your wife. I saw her with a man, not at your house. In Gastonia, at a signing office near Franklin Boulevard." My grip tightened on the steering wheel. "What kind of signing office?" I asked. "Notary. Paperwork. I was there for my own stuff. They kept talking about getting it done and his signature. I didn't catch everything, but it didn't sound like a car title. I didn't ask her name. She didn't offer it. "Why tell me?" I said. A pause, then a quiet exhale. "Because I've been the wife who didn't know," she answered. "And because that man, he's trouble. Do what you want with it." The call ended. I sat there for a full minute, phone still against my ear, listening to nothing. The notary part didn't feel like a rumor. It felt like a missing screw finally dropping onto the floor where you can hear it. An hour later, I met Elena at the Charlotte Mecklenburg Library downtown. I chose it for one reason. No doorbell camera, no neighbors, no Tanya passing by and asking why I was acting weird. Elena arrived with a folder and the same calm eyes. I told her about HR, the bank notification, the unknown call. She didn't blink. "If someone is trying to refinance, pull equity, or file documents using your name," she said, "you don't argue at home. You get ahead of it. Today." "What do I do first?" I asked. "Freeze access where you can. Document everything. And get a lawyer who knows both family court and fraud patterns. You need a paper trail before she builds one against you." That night, Tanya didn't speak to me directly. Instead, I watched my phone light up with messages from mutual friends. "Hey man, Tanya okay? Everything all right at home?" One message came with a screenshot of her post. "Praying for anyone living with someone unstable." My mother-in-law called around 9. She didn't greet me. She went straight into it. "Marcus, you're a grown man," she said. "Don't embarrass my daughter. Whatever you think you saw, you need to let it go, for the child." I listened without interrupting. Let her talk herself out. Let her hang the rope she didn't realize she was holding. When she finally paused, waiting for my apology, I said nothing. I ended the call, set the phone down, and opened a notebook from the kitchen drawer. On the first page, I wrote the date and time. Then I started listing everything. Every withdrawal, every message, every lie, every name that popped up around my home like they had a right to be there. The notebook stayed open on the passenger seat while I drove to Dilworth before the sun was fully up. I didn't bring it inside. Didn't need anyone seeing me walk into a bank holding a list of my own damage. The branch smelled like carpet cleaner and early shift coffee. A couple of retirees waited near the counter, chatting about something on the news. I took a number, sat, and kept my phone face down. When my turn came, I stepped up to the desk and spoke the way I speak at work. Clear, clipped, polite. I need printed transaction history for this account, I told the banker. Last 90 days, and I want to open a dispute on these withdrawals. I slid my phone across with the screenshots already pulled up. No shaking in my hands, no extra words. She studied the screen, then nodded once. "Do you recognize the payee names?" she asked. "No," I said. "That's why I'm here." She started typing, asked for ID, verified my information, offered to set fraud alerts and change the online access. "Yes," I said, each time, like signing off on routine maintenance. The word affair never came out of my mouth. It didn't belong in that building. Money doesn't care why someone steals it. Before leaving, I requested a copy of every change request tied to the account. The banker printed what she could, stamped the pages, and handed them over in a folder. I walked out with paper under my arm and the strange calm that comes when panic gets replaced by steps. From there, I drove to a small law office near Providence Road. Nothing fancy, a receptionist behind glass, a waiting room with a couple chairs and magazines nobody reads. The attorney, Mr. Hollis, looked like he'd seen every kind of messy people try to keep hidden. He didn't waste time warming me up. "Tell me what's happening," he said. I handed him my timeline, the bank prints, the screenshots, and the doorbell log showing motion at the times Tanya claimed she wasn't home. I talked in dates and hours instead of feelings. That made it easier to breathe. He flipped through the pages, then leaned back. "You're thinking divorce," he said. "I'm thinking protection," I answered. "For my son, for my name, for the house." He nodded like he respected that phrasing. "You want temporary custody arrangements," he said. "You want to secure assets. Depending on what we find, you may need a restraining order or a no-contact order tied to harassment. And you need to stop having private arguments with her." "What do I do if she pushes?" I asked. "You document. You don't perform," he said. "Family court rewards the person who stays steady." I'd heard a version of that before, from my father. If you stay ready, you don't have to get ready. I left with a list of next steps and a fee agreement I didn't sign yet. Paperwork takes time. Decisions take less. On the way home, I cut through Freedom Park and took the long loop without thinking. Halfway through, a gray sedan slipped in behind me. Same distance at the next light. Same turn at the next corner. I turned right when I didn't need to. It followed. Then I swung left into a side street, circled back, and watched it keep going straight like it had somewhere important to be. That night, while Jay showered upstairs, my phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "Don't make this worse." I stared at the message, then set the phone down beside my notebook and turned to a clean page. The knocking started before I'd finished pouring cereal. Not the casual tap of a delivery guy. Firm, spaced out, like whoever stood on the other side expected me to open up fast. Jay sat at the table in his hoodie, half awake, spoon hovering over the bowl. "You expecting someone?" he asked. "No," I said, and kept my voice steady on purpose. I walked to the front door and checked through the peephole. 2 officers, 1 man, 1 woman, hands resting near their belts, not aggressive, just prepared. I unlocked the door and stepped onto the porch with my palms visible. "Morning," the male officer said. "Mr. Reed?" "Yes." "We received a welfare check request," he continued. "Caller reported there may be a domestic situation here, possible threats. We need to make sure everyone's safe." I didn't look back right away. I already knew Tanya would be somewhere behind me, ready to be seen at the right moment. "Okay," I said. "I'm not armed. I'm cooperative. My son is inside eating breakfast for school." The female officer's eyes flicked past me toward the doorway. "We'd like to speak with him briefly," she said. "That's fine," I replied. "I'd like this noted in your report. I'm the primary caregiver on weekdays. I handle school drop-offs, pickups, meals. If you need verification, I can provide it." The male officer nodded like he'd heard similar sentences from men trying to save themselves. I didn't blame him for that. Jay appeared in the doorway behind my leg, blinking at the uniforms. "Hey," the the female officer said, lowering her tone. "You doing okay this morning?" Jay glanced up at me first. A small thing, but it hit hard. "Yeah," he said. "I'm fine." Then Tanya stepped into view behind him, wrapped in a cardigan like she'd been cold all night. Her eyes looked wet. Her hands trembled just enough to be convincing. "I'm sorry," she murmured, voice thin. I didn't know what else to do. He's been intense." There it was, the word people use when they don't have proof but want fear to do the job. I kept my face neutral. "Officer," I said, "I'm willing to answer questions, but I also want it documented that I have not threatened anyone. I haven't touched anyone. I haven't raised my voice in front of my child. If there's an accusation, I want it recorded as an allegation, not a conclusion." The male officer looked at Tanya, then back at me. "We're not here to take sides," he said. "We're here to ensure safety." "Understood," I answered. "I want the same thing." Jay shifted on his feet. Tanya touched his shoulder like she was protecting him from me, even though I'd been the one making his lunch for years. The officers asked a few basic questions, checked for immediate danger, then handed me a small card with a case number. "If anything escalates, call," the female officer said. "Both of you." They left without drama. No cuffs, no raised voices. Just footsteps down the walkway and a patrol car pulling away like it had done this 100 times already. Tanya didn't say anything once they were gone. She turned back into the house and started wiping a countertop that wasn't dirty. My phone buzzed before I could sit down. Email notification from the bank. New device attempted login. Another alert followed, this one from a lender portal I hadn't signed up for. "Your application is almost complete. Upload remaining documents to finalize your home equity line request." I stared at the words until they stopped looking like English. Home equity. They weren't just dipping into checking anymore. They were reaching for the house itself. I left Jay with a packed lunch and a calm goodbye, then drove straight to the parking lot across from the Mecklenburg County Courthouse. Didn't go inside yet, just sat where I could think without anyone in my face. The recorder in my glove compartment felt heavier than it should have. The notebook lay open beside me. I added the welfare check case number to the timeline, wrote down the exact time the bank alert hit, and circled the lender message twice. My phone buzzed again. This time, it was Jay. "Dad, are you okay?" I read it once, then again, because the second time it landed somewhere deeper. A marriage can end and still leave you standing. But if I stayed quiet while someone built a story that made me dangerous, I could lose the right to raise my own son in peace. I typed back, "I'm good. I'll see you after school." Then opened the courthouse website on my phone and searched for the clerk's office hours. The clerk's office didn't give me what I wanted, not right away. They gave me forms, rules, and the same tired look people save for anyone walking demonstrate into trouble with a marriage license and a mortgage. I left with a stamped request and a list of records I could pull if I knew exactly what to ask for. That was the problem. Tanya and whoever she was working with knew how to move in shadows. I was learning in real time. Elena met me outside in the hallway, her phone already out. "I can help with one piece," she said. "Not everything, but enough." She drove out to a notary office in the suburbs with me the next day, the kind of place tucked between a nail salon and a tax prep shop. We didn't go inside together. Elena went first, talked to the clerk like she was there for her own documents, then came back out with a thin stack of photocopies. "This is public-facing stuff," she said, sliding the papers into my hands. "Not a confession, but look at the stamp." The same notary name appeared on 2 different documents, dated weeks apart. Same seal, same signature style. One file wasn't mine, but the pattern mattered. It meant Tanya wasn't improvising. She was using a system. My heart didn't race. It settled. There's a strange peace that comes when you stop hoping you're wrong. From there, I drove straight to Noda and met my neighbor at a small coffee shop near the street. His name was Eric. We'd waved at each other for years and borrowed each other's tools once or twice. That was the full depth of our relationship until the day he called. Eric sat in the corner with a laptop open and a nervous look like he didn't want to be in the middle of anything. "I brought what I have," he said, voice quiet. He clicked through a folder and turned the screen toward me. Video from his security camera, my backyard gate, the side of my house. Tanya slipping through the back door with a man behind her. The timestamp matched a Tuesday night I'd worked late to cover a shift. Another clip showed the same car pulling up the week after. Then came the piece that made my stomach drop all over again. Audio. Not clear enough to recognize every word, but clear enough to catch her voice. "Hurry up," Tanya said, sharp and rushed. "He's gonna be home." A door closed. Footsteps. A low male laugh. I didn't move for a second. My fingers stayed wrapped around the coffee cup like it could hold me upright. Eric watched me carefully. "Man, I'm sorry," he said. "I didn't want to, but I couldn't watch that happening and pretend I didn't see it." "You did the right thing," I said, and meant it. He emailed me the files right there. I saved them, backed them up, then sent a copy to Elena and Mr. Hollis. 3 places. No trusting a single device. Back home, Tanya was in the living room folding laundry, face calm, TV on low. She looked up and smiled like we were normal. "You're home early," she said. I set my keys down and kept my voice flat. "We need to talk about the notary office in Gastonia," I said. Her eyes widened just enough. Then the tears came, quick and practiced. "I can't believe you're still doing this," she whispered. "Following me, tracking me. You're scaring me, Marcus." "I'm not tracking you," I said. "I'm looking at bank records. I'm looking at account changes I didn't make." She shook her head like I was unreasonable. "You're obsessed," she said. "You're turning into somebody I don't recognize." I didn't argue with the performance. I let it play out like background noise while my mind worked through the timeline. Withdrawals start. Card taken without permission. Backdoor nights. Notary name repeating. Loan inquiry almost completed. Welfare check at my doorstep the morning after the "don't make this worse" message. It wasn't chaos. It was a sequence. And sequences have weak spots. Everything they were trying to do required one thing they couldn't steal without risk: my signature, my consent, my presence long enough to trap me in a story where I looked violent or unstable. I walked past her toward the kitchen and opened the drawer where we kept important papers. The folder with the deed wasn't where it should have been. Tanya's voice followed me. "What are you looking for?" she called, sharper now. I didn't answer. I took my phone out and opened the bank app again. Fraud alert still active. Account still flagged. Good. Then I opened my calendar and started blocking off time for appointments. Bank, lawyer, clerk's office. Like I was building a work schedule. Tanya stood in the doorway with her arms crossed. "You're really doing this," she said. I kept my eyes on the screen and saved the new entries. "I'm handling what needs to be handled," I replied, and hit confirm on the next appointment. Tanya agreed to meet at my attorney's office like she was doing me a favor. She texted, "Fine, but I'm not coming alone." I didn't respond. I forwarded it to Mr. Hollis and kept packing my folder. The morning of the meeting, I wore the same button-down I'd worn to my last performance review. Not because I cared about looks, but because I refused to show up like a man unraveling. I pressed the collar, checked my breath, and slid the documents into a thick binder. Bank records, screenshots, HR email, police welfare check case number, the lender portal message, and Eric's video files printed with timestamps. Before leaving, I made Jay a sandwich and set it in the fridge with a sticky note. Back by 5, homework after snack. He glanced up from the couch. "Where are you going?" he asked. "To handle paperwork," I said. "Nothing you need to worry about." He nodded, but his eyes stayed on me longer than usual. Uptown traffic crawled. Parking cost too much. The lobby smelled like floor polish and old coffee. I signed in, sat in the waiting area, and kept my binder on my lap like it was part of my body. When the elevator opened, Tanya stepped out first. Her mother followed right behind her, lips tight, purse clutched like she came ready to fight. A man trailed them, stopping short of the door like he didn't want to leave fingerprints. Same height as the silhouette from Eric's camera. Older than I expected. Calm in the face, predatory in the eyes. Tanya didn't look at me. She looked past me, like I was furniture. Her mother did look. She stared the way people stare when they've already decided the villain. "So this is what you're doing," she said before anyone sat down. Mr. Hollis stepped out and nodded once. "Mrs. Watkins," he said politely. "Ms. Reed, let's go in." Inside the conference room, Tanya sat beside her mother. The man stayed in the hallway, leaning against the wall like he belonged to them but didn't want to be named. Mr. Hollis shut the door and started with his calm voice. "We're here to discuss temporary arrangements and to address financial irregularities." Tanya sighed like she'd been dragged into nonsense. "Marcus is trying to destroy our family," she said. "He's been acting paranoid, accusing me of things, watching me. It's scary." Her mother jumped in fast. "My daughter's been crying for weeks," she said. "He's controlling, always on her, always checking her phone. And now he wants to ruin her reputation." I let them talk. Didn't interrupt. Didn't defend my pride. Pride doesn't feed a kid. When they finished, Mr. Hollis opened my binder and slid a stack of papers across the table. "These are bank records," he said. "Multiple withdrawals and payees not recognized by Mr. Reed. These are screenshots of account access changes. This is the fraud alert confirmation from the bank. This is a lender portal showing an almost completed home equity line request using shared property information." Tanya's face stayed composed until the lender page. Then her eyes flickered, just once. Mr. Hollis set down another sheet. "This is a motion log from the doorbell camera," he said. "Times and dates. And this," he added, placing the printed stills and a USB drive on the table, "is third-party security footage showing a vehicle arriving and leaving at those same times." Tanya swallowed. Her mother's posture shifted. "That doesn't prove anything," Tanya said quickly. "He's been stalking me. He's obsessed." Mr. Hollis didn't argue. He turned another page. "This is a police welfare check report number," he said, tapping it with his pen. "Officers noted Mr. Reed was cooperative and unarmed. They recorded no threats, no escalation. And these," he continued, laying out printed screenshots, "are messages Mr. Reed received from an unknown number, warning him to stop pursuing this." I watched Tanya's hands tighten in her lap. Her mother reached for her purse strap like she needed something to hold. Mr. Hollis turned to Tanya. "At this point, we're requesting temporary custody for Mr. Reed based on stability and documentation," he said. "We're also requesting an order preventing either party from accessing or transferring marital assets without written consent." Tanya's voice rose, not into a scream, but into something sharp. "He's lying," she said. "He's threatening me. He said—" I leaned forward for the first time. "If I had threatened you," I said, keeping my tone level, "you would have recorded it. You record everything else." The room went quiet. The man in the hallway shifted, his shoes scraping once, like he realized the ground under them wasn't solid anymore. Mr. Hollis closed the binder. "We can do this the easy way," he said, "or the court can decide after reviewing the evidence." Tanya didn't cry this time. She just stared at the papers like they were written in a language she couldn't twist. I stood up, gathered my binder, and nodded at Mr. Hollis. "Send me the next steps," I said. Then I walked out, past the man in the hallway without acknowledging him, and pulled my phone out to check the time so I wouldn't be late picking up Jay. The weeks after that meeting didn't feel like a victory lap. They felt like errands that carried weight. Court meant taking time off work, dressing like a man who had nothing to hide, and sitting on a hard bench in a small Mecklenburg County courtroom while strangers spoke about my life in clean sentences. The judge didn't care about my heartbreak. She cared about dates, documents, patterns, and whether a child had stability. Mr. Hollis spoke when he needed to. Tanya's attorney tried to paint me as controlling. Tanya tried to look fragile. The judge listened, asked questions, and scanned the exhibits without emotion. The order came down temporary and clear. Primary custody stayed with me for now, with a set visitation schedule. Neither of us could sell, refinance, or touch major assets without written agreement and court approval. A simple line on paper, but it changed everything. After the hearing, Tanya didn't chase me in the hallway. No apology, no explanation. She looked at me the way people look at a door that won't open anymore. Her mother stayed close, whispering into her ear. The man from the notary clips never showed up again. I heard through Elena that the bank escalated the fraud dispute once they saw the attempted home equity line and the access changes. They forwarded the file to their investigation unit. A report number followed, then another. It moved slow, like all real consequences do, but it moved. That same notary name Elena found kept surfacing when the lender's internal review started. Mr. Hollis didn't promise jail. He promised exposure. Sometimes that's the only punishment people like that fear, being named on paper. In the middle of all this, Jay still had math homework, still needed rides to practice, still asked what was for dinner like the world hadn't tilted. We started doing custody exchanges in a supervised office for a while, not because I wanted it, but because Mr. Hollis said it removed drama. The staff there treated us like two adults who couldn't be trusted to behave without witnesses. That stung more than I expected, but I swallowed it and signed the clipboard each time. Tanya came in dressed neat, voice soft, eyes tired. She tried to talk small talk once. "He's grown so much," she said, watching Jay. "He has," I answered. Nothing else. On the drive home, I'd sometimes get stuck on I-485 with the same gray sky hanging over the lanes. I'd sit in traffic with my hands resting loose on the wheel, and the heaviness would ease, not because I forgave her, but because I stopped begging myself to pretend. There's a quote my grandfather used to say when he didn't want to argue. "Don't wrestle with pigs, you both get dirty, and the pig likes it." I finally understood what he meant. I didn't wrestle, I documented, I separated, I protected. When the lease on the new place went through, I chose a small apartment near Lake Wiley. Nothing fancy. 2 bedrooms, a view of a parking lot, a playground close enough for Jay to ride his bike without crossing busy streets. It wasn't the house I'd worked for, but it was ours. The first night, I carried the last box inside, set it down, and watched Jay claim his room in 5 minutes flat. He tossed his backpack on the bed and asked where the Wi-Fi password was. I gave it to him, then stood in the kitchen, unpacking plates like a man learning how to live again. Later, after he fell asleep, I placed my keys on the counter. The silence didn't feel empty. It felt unclaimed, like fresh land. I turned off the light, sat on the edge of the couch, and let my shoulders drop while my phone stayed quiet beside me.